All right, class, happy Friday. We're on lesson 7 and 8 we want to accomplish yet today. Your Friday sheet should be in your folder. Let's get right after it. We're in an oil rig off the Gulf of Mexico. So if we started our trip, we were in Florida, Cape Canaveral, up to Jamestown, over to Memphis, down to New Orleans, and now we're somewhere out here in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's the picture that I tried to put on here. All these little dots down here, there's New Orleans. All these little dots on here, those are oil platforms. Big oil rigs that are anchored to the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico there that drill down oil and pump oil out and then bring it back to land for us to use. An oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico. Many people who live near the Gulf Coast are oil workers. Another name for oil is petroleum. The state of Louisiana has more than 58,000 wells that pump petroleum out of the ground. Petroleum is thick black liquid that is formed deep in the earth and under the ocean floor. God made that there for us. Drilling for oil under the ocean is not easy, and oil workers build huge platforms called rigs to hold their machinery. Here's a picture of it on the bottom. Big, huge platform. Now, that's a huge boat. So think how big this is. Okay? You have big cranes on there to load and unload these boats that come. This big rig here is where the drilling actually goes up, and then in a pipe brings the oil to the surface. These platforms called rigs to hold their machinery. Then they drill down under the sea until they find oil. Once the oil is pumped out of the earth, it is sent to a factory. The factory is called a refinery, and it turns petroleum into useful products. The products you probably know best is gasoline for cars. Oil is also used for making petrochemicals, a big word that means chemicals made from oil. Petrochemicals are used in all kinds of products, from medicines to plastics. There's a whole lot of plastics made out of oil. Crazy, huh? I'll bet you're wearing a petrochemical product right now. It might be a button, a zipper, or the sole of your running shoe. Let's take a motorboat back to New Orleans. We still have 2 more places to visit by bus on our journey through the southeast. Where do we find oil? Now, there's 2 different places we can find it in Louisiana. They actually said that there was this many wells in Louisiana. So we have it in Texas and in other states as well. In Louisiana and I shouldn't say in, I should say under the Gulf of Mexico. How is oil used? First of all, gas for cars, trucks, SUVs, whatever you drive is probably use gas. Mowers use gas. Some leaf blowers use gas. Snowmobiles use gas. Boats use gas. Airplanes use gas. Yikes, we need a lot of gas. And then we're also going to put underneath here petrochemicals. Under that one, I'm going to put some things that they're used for. Medicines. Isn't that interesting? To plastics. I think they said the soles of my shoes. I don't like having soles on shoes, otherwise my feet would hurt. Soles of shoes. Feel free to list any of the other ones that they had for us there. What things can be made of petrochemicals? Uh-oh, I should have put these down here. I got ahead of myself, too excited. Okay, and then define petroleum. Our last one for petroleum is a thick black liquid. Now it sounds pretty good. We pump this stuff out of the ground, we sell it, make money on it, make gas out of it. A lot of businesses and a lot of employees are employed because of this. But once in a while, one of these rigs breaks or cracks and we spill oil in the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. That's really bad news. And so there's always pros and cons to this. All right, well, the last one we're going to do this week is a cotton plantation in Natchez, Mississippi. I believe that's how you pronounce that word, Natchez. Our bus has brought us back to Natchez, Mississippi. You are looking at a cotton plantation home. A plantation is a large farm. In the early 1800s, cotton planters settled in this area. Many of them became very rich growing cotton, and they spent their wealth building big homes like this one. These got fancy columns on them and porches. Almost looks like the the White House in Washington, D.C. with the columns that are on that house. Then they filled their homes with the best things money could buy. In the mid-1800s, many planters wanted to start new plantations on the western land that belonged to the United States. They wanted to use slave labor, but other people felt that slavery should not spread into new areas. Who had the right to decide, the federal government or the southern slave owners? And this is kind of leading up to what's going to happen. It's a big tragedy in our country, this war. It took a war to settle the argument. Divided into the North and South, Americans fought against Americans in the American Civil War for 4 long years. And this is really sad because we killed each other. We were at war with each other. That's what a civil war is. Much of the Southeast was damaged in the fighting, and more than 600,000 people died. One good thing came out of the terrible war. Slavery was ended forever in the United States. I wonder how many slave ancestors felt when they heard the news that they were now free. Remember what President Lincoln signed? It was called the Emancipation Proclamation, saying that everybody is free. It must have been an amazing feeling. Natchez escaped most of the fighting, so many of its beautiful homes were not damaged in the war. Today, they are one of the city's main tourist attractions. Let's go on our bus for one last trip. It'd be pretty cool to be able to tour this small city of Natchez, Mississippi. How is plantations different than a farm? It is larger. A plantation is a very large farm. All of our farms today have hired workers, and plantations unfortunately use slaves to do the work. What is one of the reasons Americans fought the Civil War? Now, there was a lot of reasons why the Civil War was fought, but one of the main reasons was they were trying to make these new western states slave states. We're going to read an amazing book about Harriet Tubman this February that has this as one of the topics in it, a slave state versus a free state. And we'll talk about voter fraud, and we'll talk about people backing the ballots and people going into other states to vote. Oh, they did all sorts of illegal things to try to get it to be a free state, or illegal things to try to get it a slave state. And what happened to slavery at the end of the Civil War? No more slavery. In this book, it's going to be awesome because we're going to find out one of the key turning points in the war was that runaway slaves from the South, which Harriet Tubman helped some do, runaway slaves from the South joined the Union Army from the North and fought to win their freedom. And that was a big, huge turning point because all of a sudden we had all of these former slaves who are now fighting, and so the North had many more soldiers than it had originally started with. And so, boom, they turned around and they fought and they helped free other slaves. No more slavery after the Civil War. All right, guys, that finishes our social studies for this week. Remember to put your name on the front of this page. Should be some easy A's this week if you watched all the video. You guys have a great weekend. God bless your day.